Hey guys, welcome back to part 3 of carving a welcome figure with Tom Lafortune. For those of you who are just tuning in, Tom Lafortune has been a native carver here on Vancouver Island for 46 years now. And we're just going to go through and I'm going to ask him as many questions as I can to kind of describe the whole process of finishing out this welcome figure. So sit back and enjoy the show. So first off, I can see you got some pretty heavy-duty sanding going on here. You just, what grits do you start with when you're after shaping with the chainsaw?
After I run it down with a chainsaw and do my rasping, we start with 24 grit and move up to 60. We like to call that a little knife sometimes.
Yeah, this can move a lot of material. And then you finish with 150?
We'll take it right down, start with 24 and then go to 60 and then 80 and then finish it with 40.
And what size saw do you like to use for this kind of detail work here?
This is a little Still 7-1. It's just because of the chain is a lot finer chain than most other brands can give you, and you can't get a chain that small with any of the other high-end chainsaws.
That thing seems to really move through the cedar pretty well too.
You keep them good and sharp. It takes a lot of wood out in no time at all, and with the tip and the teeth that are on it, there is no kickback or. There's a lot of experience in this too with the chainsaw, and there's a lot of things I do I wouldn't recommend anybody else try.
Yeah, clearly you've been doing this for a lot longer than most people. How close do you try and get to the rough shape before you switch to like rasps and sanders and that sort of other tools?
Now, with the experience that I have, I can get it really close. I can get a lot of detail with that little chain, keep it good and sharp. It doesn't tear the wood, it actually cuts. For those of you that don't understand a chainsaw that well, you can sharpen them and just tickle the finest bit of wood off of it.
Yeah, that must save you just days and days of work getting it really close as opposed to switching the hand tools.
Yeah, back in the day I used to use a lot of chisel and mallet, and then you have to go over it with the knives again, and it's just, for my own peace of mind, I'd just as soon use a chainsaw because I've had one in my hand most of my life, and it takes a lot of time, and I need that to trim that time down just so I can get these pieces finished.
Yeah. And for those of you guys who think that, using power tools is cheating, how about you smoke some more crack? Because any artist throughout history has always used the best possible tools available to them. So sure, I got respect for guys that only use hand tools. Do your thing. Like, that's cool. But I guarantee you, Michelangelo or any of these guys, if they had, pneumatic tools and diamond blade grinders, they would be using those without question to carve all these sculptures. So keep your comments to yourself, you whiny babies. So pretty much all of this is really just like so much of it's by feel. Like you just freehand draw most of these designs and then use the tracing paper to transfer it out, or
just so I have the same shape on both sides and I don't lose what I'm trying to accomplish with the shaping. I don't want to lose any of the form. I want to keep it balanced, so tracing paper comes in handy.
Yeah. Now, do you try, like obviously with the face and certain features, you want to keep symmetry, is pretty paramount, but with other parts of the features, do you kind of let things just be a little bit more natural and flowy, or?
I try to just I don't sketch a lot of my work out unless I draw it right on the wood, and a lot of times I don't even do that. I'll just start cutting, and then I can balance it from there. That's where, for me, wood is the perfect medium. We don't make mistakes, we make modifications.
Yeah. Okay, this is the fun part. With your knives, how often do you end up sharpening them? Because cedar is pretty hard on the tools, even though it's a softwood, is it not?
Some of the knots can be. This one, the knots on this piece of wood are like glass. They can take a chunk out of your knife if you're not doing it right. But with good steel, tempered right, and a good edge, you can just a bit at a time take it real easy through those knots, and you don't need to sharpen as much. It's all in the tempering process of these knives.
So what's your like favorite part of the process? Do you like the kind of satisfaction of ripping through the log with the chainsaw, or do you like getting to the finer tools and really bringing the features to life?
For me personally, it's opening the wood up, taking the sapwood off to see what kind of wood I have underneath to work with, and that just really gets my mojo going, because you get a beautiful piece of wood, and then you can take the time to do the piece that you want to do, and your work just turns out better if you're happy with the wood.
So what is that you're using around the eyes there? Is that a chisel?
That's an awl, A-W-L. It's I shape it like my fingertip, and I rub the wood where I've knifed it down in the curves, and then it's easier to sand.
Okay. And it kind of puts a polish and compresses the wood?
Compresses the wood, and then if I don't want to sand the whole thing, I'll go over the whole thing with an awl and just rub it down, and then when I oil it, you'll get some of the knife texture through.
Okay.
But if I'm sanding, it's really easy to sand once you rub it down.
What type of wood is that made out of?
I have three. I've got one that I made out of yellow cedar, but it leaves some marks in the wood. It's just too soft. I have an oak one that I have to sand every now and then I have a rosewood.
So the harder the wood, obviously, the kind of finer polish and compression it puts on the fibers.
Makes a huge difference on the finished piece.
And do you just use that on the face?
Pretty much, but I do have a wide flat end that I can use to rub the body too, but it's like using a knife. You have to go with the grain and to make sure you don't leave any. When you oil it, it'll look like somebody scribbled on it if you didn't do it right.
Oh, okay.
With this process, what I'm trying to do is bring the eyes out with native carved faces. You try and make it look human, but you still want to make it bigger than life, bigger mouth, a wider nose.
Yeah.
It just makes a stronger face.
And these designs, like, did you kind of read up on a ton of books and designs, or was it more just kind of learned on the job and developed your own style that way?
For carving with my style, I learned from one of the masters on the island here, Simon Charlie, and he said life like is key. That's the part of the Salish way. And then with the Salish art, it was almost lost. So anything that we do, it just leaves it such a wide open door to call my work Coast Salish, because it was so lost. I am First Nations. I'm not 300 years old. 300 years from now, they'll say my work is traditional.
Yeah. So there is a lot of room for kind of interpretation and
keeping in with the Salish finished designs and whatnot. Yes, you can. The form that we do, a lot of Salish work is lifelike.
And more simple, not like heavily ornate kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Every artist has their own way of doing faces and whatnot, and I have a lot of people try and duplicate the way I do my faces, and they have a rough time with it. For me, it's important to have a profile when you look from the side, a human profile.
Yeah.
And just it's a lot of years of trial and error, hit and miss, and then now I've finally got my style where you can actually see a profile.
Yeah, the features are really pronounced. I like that. Yet it's kind of simple. Like I kind of, every time I've tried to do any native design work, I always overcomplicate things and try and add too much detail. But oftentimes the pieces that I see out in the public spaces here on the island, it's like the ones that are more simple are usually the most. We're recording audio. What's?
I'm just leaving.
Okay. Bye. Close the door, please.
Okay.
Thanks.
Simplicity is what you make it with native art, though. It's the style that I do for me is really easy. I can do these faces in no time at all using a chainsaw, and those of you who don't like it, don't watch when I use a chainsaw.
So how much time do you spend finishing a pole? Like the face is probably what, like a day or 2 days, or?
To be honest with you, this face, to carve the whole face was probably half a day.
That's with the chainsaw, or do the finish carving?
That's with it just takes about 15-20 minutes to chainsaw. And then the carving will take me half a day to do with the knives.
Yeah, you really don't. You've done it so many times. It's obvious when you watch this video. Like you just know each step of the process, and it's just kind of, memory to you. I would spend hours and hours staring at it and making sure I had every little line the right way before I could even lay the chisels to it. So it's cool to see somebody just tear into it and then have it turn out, so nice in the end. And yeah, you didn't, spend days and days mulling over the design because you've done it so many times.
And this one was, I stepped around the pole, and after I drew the face on to make it look more stoic but still welcoming.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those things to consider when you're doing a piece. Like if it's a warrior face, you want to make it look a bit meaner. A chief face, you just want the stoic. Maybe not quite so friendly.
Is there any designs that call for like happy faces or cheerful faces, or
There's
pretty rare?
Depends on the poles that you want done. There's all kinds. People from the Raven clan or Raven family that have a raven in their family. They do a lot of really smiley, happy, cheeky faces because the raven is a trickster.
Oh, okay.
There's things like that. When you do that, you got to be able to put that out there.
Is there when you're adding like color to a pole, is there kind of like a ratio that you try and do? Like is minimal color, or do different tribes and clans of native people have more colorful or less colorful poles, or?
Depends on where you're from. The Coast Salish used a lot of color on some pieces, but it's basically highlights, eyebrows, the eyes, and nostrils, and mouth, and some other different designs on the piece. And we just call it highlighting.
Okay. And do you try and add color to every single piece, or do some pieces you just let it stay all wood?
I have left a lot of poles just straight wood. When it's a beautiful piece of wood, I don't want to cover it with paint at all.
Yeah, I hear you.
This one I used minimal paint because of the grain, and the transition in the color of the wood itself is just so amazing.
And the finish that you used on this is?
Boiled linseed oil.
Boiled linseed oil. Man, that makes the grain pop, hey? Wow.
Yeah, heavy oil on there. there just to pull the grain out, and the colors stand out so much more.
Well, that is a beautiful piece. I'm kind of inspired to try some carving myself. All right, guys. Well, that wraps up the series on carving this welcome figure with Tom. I want to say thank you so much for letting us kind of enter into your world and see the whole process. I've learned a ton, and I'm super pumped to actually kind of get into doing my own native carving, as white and not native as I am. Tom, he loves to teach people. He says that's kind of his forte. That's where he gets a lot of, just enjoyment out of his craft. So I'm thinking that I need some teaching. He's a good teacher. We're going to start another series, making some knives, obviously. I got to make a bunch of hook knives to do this kind of carving. Traditional carving tools can work, but it's a lot easier, as you obviously saw Tom using all his knives and those crazy techniques. He was just tearing the wood apart. So I need to make a set of those knives. Tom says we need about 5 different profiles to be able to carve my own mask. And so we're going to get started on that, make a few videos forging and building our own knives. And then we're going to design, or Tom's going to kind of coach me through the process of designing and carving my own mask. So give Tom a huge shout out in the comment section, you guys, because this kind of opportunity is very rare, even here in Victoria, where you get to, some guy just walks in off the street, says, hey, can I videotape you? And Tom's been like, hey, yeah, come on in anytime. He's been super accommodating, and obviously we've all benefited from this. So give Tom a shout out, you guys, and there's going to be more videos coming down the pipe, so don't worry. This isn't the last time you see Tom. I'm trying to convince him to start his own YouTube channel because he does such awesome stuff in his shop. But we'll see. Teaching an old dog new tricks isn't as easy as it sounds. So anyways, say bye, Tom.
Bye, Tom.
Till next time, Samurai out.